Good afternoon, folks. Can you hear me okay? Okay, got to keep this thing close. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming on this dreary day. And I tell you what, it's real cheerful in here. I can tell you, a lot of smiles, a lot of people getting out, enjoying this world. In these interesting times in which we live. We've got you all spaced out. You look very distant. That's good. This is a very special monthly meeting we have for you today. You're going to see a lot of faces. You're going to hear some stories. Some of you in here are even too young to even go back to the days that this chamber was founded. But I think you're going to find it very, very interesting. As always, we start off our meeting with the invocation and pledge. And I'm going to ask Jonathan Matthews with our sponsor, which is Memphis Funeral Home, to come up and lead us.
Would you bow your heads? Dear God and Heavenly Father, we are with sincere hearts. We ask your blessings upon these moments we share today. Lord, in the coming weeks, we will enjoy the season of Thanksgiving. And in these moments, we offer to you our thanksgiving for the land in which we live, its freedoms, its foundations, its citizens, and the peace that we enjoy. We do ask your blessings upon our nation, our country, in these times of difficulty and times of uncertainty. We ask your blessings upon our homes, our families, that love and peace may abound. We ask your blessings upon our businesses for those who work for us and those who work with us. We ask your blessings on this community for its strength, its safety, and its prosperity. Lord, there's no secret that we are in the midst of an election time. Our prayer is that all will be done decently and in order, and that fairness may prevail. Will you be with those in authority, those who are elected to serve and to lead, bestowing upon each one purpose, a sense of their responsibility, mindful of what is good for all the people? Will you be with us in our endeavors that we find wisdom and strength to pursue our work each day? For this food we enjoy, the fellowship as well, we give you our thanks. And to you, O God, the maker of heaven and earth, we offer this prayer this day, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Would you stand together as we recite the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John. As always, folks, I say this every month, and I can never say it enough, and that is Chamber of Commerce is a not-for-profit, as you well know, and it's not for our sponsors, major stakeholders, as well as our members, we would not exist. And we put on these monthly meetings so that we can communicate and network with our members and bring you up to date on the latest that's going on within the chamber community. And we have sponsors, okay, that can make this happen, make this possible. So real quickly, I'm just going to name our sponsors for the entire year. They've been with us even during this very interesting time of 2020 as far as we've had some virtual meetings, as you well know. But anyway, our sponsor for this year is IBC, Ava Maria, Trustmark Bank, Methodist Women's Hospital, Southern Security, Memphis Funeral Home, SunTrust Bank, First Horizon Bank, and St. Francis Hospital. We appreciate y'all sticking with us this year. And this is the final meeting for 2020. We got some other events coming up before the end of this year, but this is the last meeting. And as always, it's become pretty traditional that Memphis Funeral Home is that last sponsor of the year. They like that. And so we're going to ask Chad Smith. Many of you know Chad. You might know him as Paul.
No, they don't know about Paul.
But anyway, Chad is going to say a few words about his hospital. I have a benefit here. Anyway.
Thank you, John. As John said, my name is Chad Smith. I don't go by Paul. Unless you email me, that's Paul. So, hold up. Okay. I'm the general manager of Luncheon Home and Memorial Gardens. And we also were celebrating our 25th year here in the Bartlett community, as well as the surrounding area. It's an honor to be here and be the sponsor. We take great pride in being a full-service funeral home and cemetery, as well as crematory, which gives us the opportunity to serve families we have served in the community throughout the years. We offer more options than ever before, surpassing other funeral homes and cemeteries in the area. So I'd like to introduce who is with me here today. Lee Murphy, he's over here. He is our market director. And what that basically means is he's my boss, and he gives me the okay to give y'all money for the chamber. So when I have to give y'all money, he's the guy I go to. David Dixon, he's our pre-need sales and cemetery manager. He has a big role to play. And Jonathan Matthews, which y'all just met, did the invitation. And at this time, I'd like to have Jonathan come up and kind of speak about some more opportunities with Memphis Union. Thank you.
I was speaking to a senior citizen group in East Memphis a few weeks ago, and I asked them to ponder a question. And the question that I posed to the audience was, what makes a good funeral? And without any hesitation, the man on the third row said, putting it off as long as possible. And that led me to realize that every day, Paul and Chad and David and our entire staff think about things that most people only have to think about once or twice in a lifetime. I was speaking to a different group a few months ago, and I asked them for different questions, and the typical things about funerals came to the surface, things about caskets and cremation, cemeteries, and this, that, and the other, obituaries. And then one man asked the question, does every funeral have to be so sad and somber? And my answer was absolutely not. And that's a question that we ponder as well at Memphis Funeral Home. And I want to ask you, just simply put, what makes a good funeral? And we've come to the understanding that if a funeral can really celebrate life and express the individual worth of someone's life, then we have had a good funeral. That's what so many people want, not doom and gloom, not dreary, and not sad. And that really means paying attention to detail. And a motto we have embraced is every life celebrated well. And that's really our focus, that is our aim, and that is our priority. Something else that makes a good funeral is when people come together. And this may surprise some of you, but there are people that come in and they simply, and I hope I'm not being too direct or crass when I say this, but the request might be, will you cremate my mother and then call me when I can come pick her up? And the point is there's no coming together, there's no gathering, there's no connecting with family and friends. And we see that as something that every family should enjoy. And we have had recent renovation with an expanded place for gatherings and receptions. We have smaller venues for visitation. We have a remodeled chapel. If you've been by 3700 North Germantown Road, you know the updates and the renovations that we've made. If you've not been by, we welcome you to pay a visit at any time. And the last thing I would say about a good funeral, beyond the life being remembered well, and people and family and friends coming together. A good funeral is one that you talk about ahead of time. I encourage you to have the talk, to make a plan, and to record it and write it down. Let your wishes be known. It'll save your family a lot of trouble when you do bid this world goodbye. And if you ever want to formally and officially make your plans known, have a file in our offices. We're more than happy to sit down with you and make those arrangements complete. Thank you for allowing us to sponsor the Chamber Luncheon today.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate it. appreciate your sponsorship and everything you've done for this chamber. Paul is always there for us whenever we need him. Right? Chad, I'm Chad. We've got a very exciting program for you today, and we're not going to delay much until we get into that. So, but I am going to ask Marla Young, our Director of Communications and Marketing, to come up and fill you in on a few things that are going on. We'll start the program.
Thank you. Can y'all hear us okay? I feel like this mic's going in and out. Is that, you can still hear us? Okay. So thank you for coming. We're so happy to have such a big crowd today. My name is Marla Young. I'm the Director of Communications at the Chamber. So I just have a couple of little events that are coming up that we want to remind you about. They're on the back of your program if you want to take it with you. The last farmers market for the year is on Saturday, and we would love it if you came out and help support. This is a project of the cities that the Chamber manages. We're really proud of it. We've done a lot of work with it this year. We had to move it to a temporary location, which is next to the library. And if you haven't had a chance to come out and support the farmers market this year, this is your last opportunity, so we'd love to see you there. We have a ribbon cutting this week for Mid-South Independent Electrical Contractors. They just purchased a new building in Bartlett. It is, how do you say, like behind the MAPCO at Elmore Park and Stage Road. And you're all welcome. We just want to give them a shout out. We're excited to have them staying in Bartlett. They're an excellent addition to the community, and that's on Thursday afternoon. That's here on the back of your program also. And then for large events coming up, you know, we've had to put a lot of these off all year, as everyone has. But we are really excited to be planning 2 big events for the community and for the Chamber. One will be a follow-up for the rest of our 40th birthday bash, which is obviously celebrating 40 years at the Chamber, 40 years within the community. We're going to have a sort of a larger business after hours with games and dinner and drinks, the whole 9 yards at Main Event. And that's going to be on Thursday, the 19th of November. Hopefully I'll be there. Just joking. It's coming up soon though, so it's only in like 3 or 4 weeks. It's only in 3 weeks, sorry. So we're going to be we're super excited about it. That's in the planning stages. We're going to send out emails with lots more details about that for a business after hours for our 40th birthday. And then lastly, we're doing a Christmas in Bartlett market, which will be at the beautiful brand new Mayor McDonald Pavilion in Freeman Park. And that will be the weekend of the 11th and 12th of December, so Friday night and Saturday day. And we have gotten the word out recently. We're looking for vendors. Of course, we're looking for sponsors. There is a little card on at everybody's seat if you want to take that with you. It has the dates on it. Just a little reminder information that's a market and festivities on the 11th and 12th. So it's going to be a beautiful production. We're working really hard on it. We're hoping to get a lot of the community involved. We know that everyone's been really disappointed with not being able to participate in stuff like this in 2020. So we're working really hard to get something going, or something to bring some people together before the end of the year. That's all I have. And then of course, as always, we're scheduling ribbon cuttings, and we're still doing Chamber 101. I don't have one on the calendar right now, but once we get past a couple of these big events coming up, I will. So I think that's all I have, and we're going to move forward with the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marla. Okay, now to the show. As you know, this is the 40th anniversary of the Bartlett Chamber, and a lot has happened in those 40 years. And usually when we have these 10-year celebrations like this, these decade-long celebrations, we like to kind of reflect on the past, go back to the very beginning, what was Bartlett like back in 1980 when the Chamber was formed, and where are we now? And I was thinking about, everybody gets to see me and hear me all the time. Let's get somebody else up here who's a great celebrity in this community, someone that we all know, I think we all know anyway, and someone who's been in this community almost their entire life, and someone that is probably one of the biggest cheerleaders we've got. And who would that be other than the mayor, of course? We got 2 mayors here, by the way, and I want to recognize not only Mayor McDonald over here, and his son's here, by the way, too. Brooks, after a big, extensive tour of our national parks out in the West, and left a lot of fires happened after you left there, I guess. We also have Mayor Flaherty. Some of you here know or remember Mayor Flaherty. Some of you may be too young to remember Mayor Flaherty. we're very fortunate to have him. And Paul Rose, I didn't see him. He was signed up that day. He was not able to make it. Okay, so without any further delay, I'm going to bring Harold Byrd up here. He was the gentleman I was talking about who knows this community so well. Some of you may not know this. He's been around a long time. He doesn't look as old as he really is. He has that baby face. I guess he inherited that in the family. But Harold was actually a state representative for this district back in the late 70s. I don't even know if some of you were around during that time. So he knows this community very well. He grew up here. Harold, come on up. I'm not going to delay with the introduction of the mayor McDonald. So here we go. Harold Byrd, y'all.
I hate being referred to as history. I don't think I'm quite that old just yet, but it is true. I've been here a long, long time. And I was taking my mask off. It reminded me, that history is never really history. I was looking the other day in social media, and I saw a picture of these folks from Georgia Tech. And they were at a football game, and I think it was in 1918, 1919. And it showed the people at a game all wearing masks. So while we're really wrestling right now with COVID-19, crisis is not new. It's not new to Memphis. It's not new to the country. But, we are here today to celebrate the spectacular 40-year history of the Bartlett Chamber of Commerce. Can y'all hear me okay? Am I okay? And my timekeeper is right back here. John gave me 15 minutes when we started this, and he's cut me down, I think, to 5 now, so I'm going to try to adhere to that. And the speakers that are coming up, if you would, try to keep your remarks to like 1 minute is what you said, John. But, the Bartlett Chamber of Commerce does have an illustrious history. Starting in 1980, Bartlett, when it started back in the days of yore, when it was Union Depot, a few hundred people, what caused Bartlett to grow to be, 300 or 400 people to 11,000 in 1980 to today, where there were over 60,000 people. John didn't know this, but we're also celebrating Bank of Bartlett's 40th anniversary as well. We couldn't do it during the COVID-19 disaster. We chose to just concentrate on our customers. So I'm going to piggyback, and the expense will be yours, not mine. So we're awfully glad to, at the same time, I have a lot of my friends from First Tennessee, different banks here today, that, we're all on the same team. But, when you look back at the history of Bartlett, the Union Depot, as it was known in 1829, we're right here today in Cedar Hall, this magnificent edifice, which is owned by Denise Sudhoff, a wonderful lady. This was built, Cedar Hall was built in 1846. Now, Dan Byrd and I know this area real well. We used to call it the Lodge because we cultivated the land around it here. Unfortunately, we rented the land and we didn't own it. But this area, when my dad and mom moved their 7 kids to this area, Brooks, a long, long time ago, he was looking for economic opportunity in a better way. But we're sitting right now in the midst of what was a totally rural area, minority area. And when I went to school at Bartlett High School, everything was really small, but the high school was big. My graduating class, if I remember right, was over 400 people. And that took in people all the way from Fraser, all the way to Millington, all the way to Fort Owens, the Germantown city line. And in my first experience, the first black kids we had was in 1965. And in 1966, we had a very good-looking guy named Larry Morris come along. He was a black kid. And we happened to have a 7'4.5" white kid by the name of Steve Turner. And we were ranked the '1 team in the state of Tennessee. And that was in 1967 and 1968. But there's so much history to Bartlett. In 1824, as I was reading the history, Brooks McDonald was talking about the fires out on the West Coast. Bartlett had 3 disastrous fires, the last which occurred in 1924. And our prayers and hearts go out to the people on the West Coast. Memphis was bigger than Atlanta in 1951. Memphis was bigger than Atlanta in 1951. And, during its time, it survived 3 yellow fever epidemics until we discovered the Great Memphis Aquifer in 1887. And now we have the equivalent of Lake Ontario. We're sitting right here on top of the most magnificent water in the world. And so we know a little bit about water. And the first Bartlett City wells, when Bobby Flaherty, I think, was mayor then in 1951, right? Bobby, I'm kidding. The first Bobby Keith Flaherty is my hero. And I tell you, he's one magnificent mayor. The better half, though, is Loretta sitting next to him, and they own General Heating and Air. But Bartlett has always been fortunate to have great water, great utilities, and Memphis has been to have the aquifer. But I'm going to move along quickly, but in 1917, Bartlett High School was established. There's the Nicholas Gotten House in 1871. I went to school with the Gottens, Dan Gotten, at Bartlett High School. I don't go back quite that far, but these are great-grandchildren. The yellow fever epidemics, as I talked about, in 1828, 1885, and 1873. So this country knows tragedy. This country knows challenge. And what we're going through right now is one, and I think we're going to come out better on the other side, but we have to do what we need to do to take care of that. Real quickly, when we moved here, Bartlett was just, as I said, a rural farming town, a few hundred people. Dan Byrd and I loved this area because, we had a very nice house in McNairy County where we came from, but what it didn't have there was what many of you might refer to as indoor facilities. Dan and I became very fond of indoor facilities, and we don't want to go back to the old days. That was just a way of life in the 60s. The one thing I would say about Bank of Bartlett, we were very fortunate to have leadership of people, like Bobby Flaherty and Keith McDonald, who served on the Chamber of Commerce. The reason we grew from a few hundred people up to where we are now is leadership. Where am I on time, Jen? I'm way over it? Okay, I'm running my time. So I will move on into this and introduce some people who are very special. When you talk about leadership, and when you talk about things that really make things happen, the first person I'm going to introduce, if you ever drove down Summer Avenue and you got, right before you got to Broadway Street, you saw a guy out on his lawnmower just to B60 mowing the lawn. And his name was Jim Reed. He was famous as a home builder, one of the leaders. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce James Reed to say a word. James, why don't you say a word too?
Proud to be in Bartlett. Been in Bartlett. Moved here in 1976. My dad started with Coleman in 1973. So I think we've actually been around a little bit longer than the Bank of Bartlett. Maybe not quite as successfully as we have been around. And we just love Bartlett. My home is still in Bartlett. My business is still in Bartlett.
Bartlett had a cast of characters that Bobby Flaherty and Liverpool and Steve. Thank you, James. I mean, it had people who were really pioneers in many ways. One of the people, not just in Bartlett, his business started in Memphis, and the first branch office, I think, was in Bartlett. And there's not a more material business that across the country, one of the largest real estate firms, not just in Memphis, but across the country. I'd like to introduce to you the Cry Like, Dig Like, the brains, and the whole operation.
Good to be here. Well, it brings back a lot of memories. I'm an Atlanta boy. You all might know that I moved here in 71. And 2 years later, I told my employer, who was a very good, I was going to get into something I could make money and only blame myself if I didn't. And that was real estate, selling real estate. Started with a company I was in named Sterling, who was Errol and Byrd. About 3.5 years into that business, Dick and Darrell had met Sterling, and we started our own company. Next month will be 44 years. And I can remember those early days because
back then, we were trying to figure out where we're gonna be able to build a team and so forth. What we did, but a lot of my early selling was right here in Bartlett. Looks like Terry Raker, I don't know if anybody here remembers. He dressed like a country western star, there he is. And, my mentor, the guy I thought a lot of out here was Ace Roberts. He was a good seller out here in Bartlett area. We started our company in December of '76. And we, first branch we decided on was right here in Bartlett. We had a lot of experience. Some of them stayed out here, working the streets, knocking on doors. So we came to Bartlett, we never regretted it. Before the 480 came around, 1980, we built us a new office building there, around the park, I think it is, right next to where the engineering guy is.
Very great.
Yeah, it was great, and mostly great. It was always a wonderful town for us. We ended up later on in the year building a larger office, over on some road. We still have that. But as far as Starlight's concerned, we're doing better this year than last. There's no question that the storage available inventory right now. That's probably getting into multiple offers. So if we just live in a great part of the world, even though I'm the loud poor, I brought my two girls here in the wife. One of the girls was even a year old, and she's 50-something years old. Times go by so fast. But thank you, Harold, and thank you, Bart, for everything that you did over the years. It's been a great time to work with. Be doing a lot more for us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. At this time of the program, I'd like to introduce Ms. Sue Griffin Coleman, who was head of the chamber prior to John, and I'd like for you to give her a big round of applause.
He only mentioned half of the team. I can't tell you. Can you hear me all right? No. Turn it off? Okay. There. Yeah. There, I can tell now. Okay. The other half of this team is somebody you all know, Mayor McDonald. And just want to tell you real quickly, I started with the chamber in 1984. I was hired by Keith and a number of other people that were on the committee. Didn't know quite what I was doing. I knew what a chamber of commerce was, but that was about it. And I started with 85 members and in a 2-room office, and I was the only employee. And I retired in 2006. And we were in a much larger building, and I think I had 3 employees, 4 employees, I can't remember exactly. But we are going to tell you about the good old days. And the mayor was here actually before I was, and he's going to start telling you about the Bartlett Business Association.
Thank you, Sue, and it's good to see everybody here today. How many of you, anybody in here, a member of the Bartlett Businessman Association? Ross, Dan, Harold. So when I first came around in this area in the late 70s, I got to know Mayor Yates. We had started, a group of us had started a Kiwanis Club. And so I was talking with him one day, and there had been some news about a new program in Nashville that they were going to try to honor communities that were ready to take on industry. And so he wanted to know about that. He said, Keith, why don't you go up to Nashville and find out what this thing is about, see what we can do about that. So I did. I went up, visited with Harold at the time. We talked to folks with ECD, and I came back with an understanding that the first thing we needed was a real chamber of commerce. You can imagine today what it'd be like if we had a Bartlett Businessman Association. not good, right? So it wasn't good back then in terms of businesses. And so we put together a group. The Businessman Association had a part-time employee, and it happened to be Sue's mother-in-law. And she said, I think I've got a candidate for you. You were a librarian?
No, I worked in the school.
Worked in a school. And so we did interview Sue, and by far she was the outstanding candidate. And I can tell you, I'm very happy that we did that, and we received a lot of success due to her work and effort. We had the opportunity to travel, myself as part of the chamber, Sue as the director, executive director, and Bobby and Charlie Goforth. I don't think Charlie's here, but just give Charlie a lot of credit too, because he was very involved in economic development in those days. So we all got the opportunity to go to Japan. And so it was a very, very interesting time as we began to grow. Is Terry Brimhall here? Did he mention? Where are you, Terry? Back to the back. The microphone. There you go. Terry Brimhall, he was one of our first entrepreneurs. And I'll let him tell you exactly how that started. But I'm a real fan of Terry and his story. So, Terry, if you would talk about what it was like to start an industry here in Bartlett.
Yeah, just talk straight into it. We, early on, we were selling pork rinds. And then in 1982, we've been out on the highways, from 82 to 87, looking for a larger place. No, in helping us find the location, I think the one in Denver Farm way, and we had an opportunity to purchase land out there, build on that. And obviously, anytime you're building in Bartlett, there are certain groups you have to jump through. And as a result of that, the park is a really nice place. Sue was very active on all the way through and helping us navigate some things, and then following the jump. Not good. If anybody wants to start a market. You know, when you think back to the Bartlett Businessman Association, how many of you here ever ate at the Shelby restaurant? Okay, so the old cliche about smoke-filled rooms might have come from the Shelby restaurant. Because there was a meeting room back in the back, and back then you could smoke, and there was a smoke-filled room, and a lot of planning and thought and arguing went on there. And so that led us to making a decision, and really, Flaherty was pushing hard, and so was Alderman Beatty. He was pushing hard, and you might note that the industrial park has his name in it with the streets and other things. Dave was really passionate about it,
got others to go along. Ross, were you an alderman at that time when they bought the industrial park? So, I happened to serve on the committee, that was looking at the first industrial development board, and with Charlie Goforth and others. And those meetings there, those meetings we went to Nashville, talked to Dan, talked to Harold, talked about things that we could do to be able to get the last little bit we needed to be able to buy the park and make it viable. And they stepped up. Our representatives in Nashville stepped up. And so we were able to do that, and we had Richards originally, which is now Olympus, and then we had Brothers, which, as I mentioned, we went to Japan. And Bobby always left me behind to try to talk to the Japanese. He and the others would wander off and look at something. I don't know how it worked out. That's the way it was. And so we had a great opportunity to meet and build relationships. There's so many stories. Doing 40 years in 20 minutes is hard, but when they were looking, when Brother was looking, they had already looked at a spot. They were thinking about going to Mississippi, and they were talking in another room, some of them. When they came back in, Bobby was sitting with the president at that time, the Brother, and they'd already worked the deal, and they were ready to go. So he was very persuasive. He's not a real boisterous kind of person, but he is someone that can bring people together and get things done. And the industrial park is a great example of that. Because we were spending $1 million, and the citizens were saying, "Well, you should spend that on something else, or streets and stuff." And just a few years later, we actually made $1 million in addition to what we had invested. So it was a great opportunity for this city to begin to be diverse. Bobby realized early on that just having houses was not going to give us, it was going to give us high property taxes without a lot of services. And so we began to work, a number of us along with Bobby and the aldermen who served during that time, began to put into place a full service community. So Sue?
One other thing that was very helpful to us during that time was we got involved in the 3-star program that he found out about when we first went to Nashville and talked about it. It was a fairly new program when we started it in we started working on it when I came to work, and in 1984, and it was a program to help communities be ready for economic development. So the state would get people coming in to talk to them, and then they would take them to different sites in the state. But a lot of the cities might have had land, but they didn't quite know how to what the prospects wanted. So the 3-star program was to teach them what they needed to do to help attract the industries and businesses that were coming. And we got our first award in 1985, and we went on and got 21 more consecutive years. And each year we had to go through a process in order to be approved for it and get it. So we were very proud of that. I want to move on a little bit to the retail. There was a lot of residential growth in the 70s and 80s, and we had this community that really didn't have any retail. There was very little bit at all. So retail businesses started looking at us, and from about 1989 to about the early 90s, we had 5 shopping centers spring up on the State Road, Bartlett Boulevard area. Then they went on down State Road to Kirby Whitten and on out east. In 1997, Wolf Chase Galleria opened, and that was also a benefit, and that was on the Memphis side, but it was also a benefit to us on the Bartlett side. And in 1984, we had a business Bartlett Home Furnishings that moved here. And we have Richard Depot, the owner, here with us to tell us what he has done during it. He's right here.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? I want to talk about the founder of the department. My father, Richard Senior. Head of here in the Department of Home Furnishings with me. Let me tell you a little bit about it. He was in World War II on a destroyer. He was at the D-Day. And then he was at Okinawa, where Tom Crosby played, crashed over the ship. And there was a sailor died, and he survived. Came back home, met my mom. Finally talked to him again. And anyway, so he started a little furniture store in Billings. 1953, then we moved to Bali in 1966. In 1974, I was working in the building. Then my sister works there. In 1974, there was a store on State Road called State House in Byrd. It was, they were not good. And they just weren't enough people. Less than 5,000 people from. And so my dad heard that they wanted to sell out, and he said, "Look, we want to buy it, and we can run that store." Sure. Well, we were on the way to the bank to borrow the money, and he said, "Now, I want this to be your store." "Oh, no, sir, I'm just working for you. That's not necessary." He said, "No, I'm not going to work for it. I'm not going to be here for it. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to succeed." So without him giving me that opportunity, I wouldn't be here talking to you. Richard Senior. Everybody loved him. He was a total extrovert, as some of you who really can attest to. And I more remember this guy, but he's the founder of Bartlett. And we've had some great years, and we've had some tough. It's peaks and valleys, that's all I can say. It's like oil. Going great right now. Who knows what's going to happen next year? But we just have to keep going. I'm not the salesman that my dad was. I'm also not the pusher. Thanks a lot.
I also want to introduce very quickly two women that had businesses here way back, in one of them in the 70s. Lorraine Williams, will you just stand, please? I don't know where you are. She owned Peddler's. She owned Peddler's Alley, which was in the Bartlett Station Plaza from 1975 to 1986. And then she closed it, and she became a Crylife agent in the Bartlett office, and she still is doing that. The other lady is, she opened her business in 1984, Bartlett Professional Secretaries Service, and worked, and also immediately joined the chamber, became very active in the chamber all the way through, and she retired in 2007, and it's Dorothea Darby. Would you please stand?
So, a lot of you are old enough, not all of you, but a lot of you are old enough to remember the old commercial. The guy with the clothing store said he would knock on doors and knock on people. You remember that ad? So that's kind of what I feel like Sue and I did in some of those early days. That there just wasn't. There was a pizza place and one bank. It was People's, which is now Trustmark, but the Byrd had that. And so we just said, you know, we're gonna find some target businesses because business brings business. And so we went out and talked to all different levels of business owners, big banks, little stores. Nothing was too big or too small. And we went around the state and learned from other chambers of commerce what they had done to succeed. And so one of the things that we, as you can drive down State Road and see that we were successful at, was attracting banks. We have a lot of banks now, and we talked to a lot of banks back then. So during that period, as Harold mentioned earlier, we had a couple of banks that, one that started and one that located a branch here. And so we remember when the Byrd brothers and sister opened Bartlett, and the Bank of Bartlett. Some of us were small shareholders, just because that's what they did. They sold enough shares to get into business. And then there was First Tennessee Bank, which is now First Horizon. And so I want to let someone from each of those banks, and there are many more, but these folks were here back then. And so Dan, if you'd like to talk a little bit about what it was like to get into the banking business in Bartlett.
Well, that's a problem.
Just have to talk like this.
I don't know one thing we need to do.
Okay, it's better. We're not gonna be able to legislate, almost need it. But, it was a long pathway. The way we started it is that, Bobby, my brother, had the first idea, but he got that from Uncle Wayne from South Tennessee. He tried to get a bank to start one. But he, didn't have enough people in McNair County to support him. So, Harold got the information on how you get a charter to start a bank. He was in the legislature, so we took that, we aligned ourselves with the correspondent bank, and then Bobby was supposed to be knocking on the little business stores out here to see if the businesses would bank with us, and he was sick. So I got that opportunity. Of course, I knocked on a lot of doors, and I knocked on the doors of Harold to get elected, and also knocked on doors myself to get elected to state representative. But in doing that, we got these three people with me. We knocked on every door in Bartlett and Raleigh, and I think at 263 doors. And Tom Meyer later on told me when I asked him, I said, why did you give us a charter? I said, a lot of people had more money than we did start a bank. But he said we gave 63% of the business people in the Bartlett area said they would bank with you. I wish they were doing that today, but they're not. But we did get, that's how we basically got the base for to start the bank. And then we had several people who were on the board with us who were like Keith was talking about starting the chamber, went around the city and talked to people that were able to get other people involved. But it's been a long road. We've been fortunate. Harold has been the, you might call it the rainmaker, and we topped it off this year by making $62 million of loans in this PPP program, so people can keep their employees. And that is something that, and some of the bigger banks couldn't make those loans, but we were able to make them.
So, our customers are happy, so we're glad they'll do that. Anyway, it's been great to work with all the folks, who have been here in the legislature. And what I have found in Bartlett, we have a lot of people who make things happen. As you know, most people don't make things happen, they watch things happen. Some people don't even know what's happening. So that's, we keep down there in line. People make things happen in Bartlett. Thank you.
So, one of the first at First Tennessee, Dan Reed.
They would have somebody else talk about this.
No, you can talk about banking in okay? He's no longer with First Tennessee, so we'll do that disclaimer for him.
I'll make that clear. That lady right up there, Beverly Humphrey. I came to Bartlett in 1993 and began to research the chamber and the city and what they were doing together. Really, as it had to do with the Bartlett Industrial Park, and I thought, this is a great place to be. So we began to gather customers and have a lot of fun doing that. And then 2013, I left that bank, and one of the first calls I made was to John Craig. And I said, John, I know we're overbanked out here, but I want to still be a part, and I want to get a bank here. So John put us together with the Macklins, and we went in, we're now partners with the Macklins on Summer Avenue, and that's because we wanted to stay connected to Bartlett. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dan.
While we were going around doing these economic things and working with other chambers, I'm not speaking good.
You're good.
Is it good? Thank you. We heard about leadership programs, and we wanted to start one in Bartlett, but it took us several years to get to the point where we could do it. And in 1990, we had our first class. I think most of you are familiar with the leadership program. It's an opportunity to know all the different facets of Bartlett. You go through a program that starts in January and ends in June, gives you just a real good overview of what the city is like. It helps you in your business. And you make new contacts and new friends. And we have Ross Hamilton here, who was in the first class, to tell you a little bit about his experiences. He's down here. There you go.
Here. And Sue asked me to do this. I really wanted to say no. She asked me to church. I couldn't find a good reason that the Lord would let me get by. Let me tell you a little bit. I was started here in 1977, did South Pittsburgh in Fourway, and was a member of the Bartlett Businessmen's Association. And when the chamber started, I didn't believe it would work. But in '84, did. And I have seen Sue and the chamber grow so many. The first year we had leadership board in 1990, there were 16 people that were from various backgrounds and opportunities in Bartlett. In fact, my class included my pastor, Frank Byrd, and Jeanette Rainey, who were all at Senior Hall at the time. Members of business like myself, but also the Historical Society, clergy, as well as others. They had a common interest in Bartlett. And what leadership board did more than anything was to take that and direct that interest in the Bartlett and turn it into a passion. And there is nothing greater than to see different people from different parts of the community come together and in turn look at ways that might be incubated, ideas that might be used for the betterment of the community. There were 4 of us in our group. We had 16 in the first class. And our group thought it would be great to see if there's any way that we might be able to start recycling in Bartlett. Along
Mike Goodman, who's the manager of programs at Bartlett, and Bartlett again. We started an exploratory program of voluntary recycling at Byrd. And from that incubation, you can see over the course of the years, the Bartlett has expanded that program, taken it over, and has developed. That's the type of programs and that's the type of vision that people need to have. The idea that we might be able to help the community that in its full capacity will take once again a vision and turn it into a passion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. I've been told we need to cut this short, so I'm just going to tell you just a minute. Along with the leadership program, now an outgrowth of that was the youth leadership program, which has been going since 1998 and is still active, as is the leadership Bartlett program. Both of them had to stop because of the pandemic in the middle of their year this year, so they have to finish theirs sometime in the future when we are able to do that. And I also wanted to just mention that Bartlett Education Foundation, which we also started, which helps give grants to teachers in our Bartlett school system. And we had somebody to talk on all of those, but we're going to stop. So I'm going to just turn that over. I just basically, in closing, want to tell you that in my time, I keep thinking I'm not talking.
It's okay.
In my time, when I started in 1984, the population was 2,100. When I retired in 2006, it was around 48,000. So it had changed. Did I say that? Okay. During that time, it had changed completely. And when I always remember that Mayor Flaherty, when he came into office in 1983, was talking about having a self-sustaining city. And when I left, it had become that. And then John took it over, and he has done an exceptional job with the chamber and continued that. And I will let him talk now.
Well, folks, I don't know about y'all, but I really enjoyed hearing all of this. And, you know, we try to keep everyone on time here. We know we got to go back to work. So I'm going to cut mine short. All I'm going to say about my role with the chamber, when Sue left, she left me in great shape because the chamber had already, you saw what all was going on in the community. So the chamber was already doing quite well. And I hope that I've been able to add something to it. But let me just say the one thing about this community out here that really surprised me, because some of you know that I was in the Memphis Chamber for 16 years before coming here to Bartlett. And before that, I was in the state of Tennessee in Nashville. When I came to Bartlett, I wasn't quite sure what I got myself into. But as I began to assess the community, and especially the business community, what I found, to my great surprise and delight, was that this community had an entrepreneurial spirit. And not only a spirit, it had a lot of good entrepreneurs. And a lot of the business, most of the businesses that you find if you drive through Corporate Park, most of those businesses are locally owned and started companies, some of which have been sold to private equity firms and whatnot, but they have started here. And folks, if there's anything that when I go out and talk about Bartlett folks, the thing I'm mainly talking about is the entrepreneurism that exists in this community. It is alive and well, and the chamber, all we can do is just accentuate it, talk about it, applaud what's going on, and help them in any way to generate new entrepreneurs and new businesses. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to cut mine short. Aaron, appreciate you coming up. What we do have, because we have a lot of charter members here, so what I'd like to ask, if you are a charter member, if you know you're a charter member, please stand up. Because these guys have been with us for 40 years. Now, you may not be 40 years old. Here we go. Amen. For all of you who are charter members, we have a special certification or certificate or recognition. And so as you leave, whoever's representing your company, please come over. We have one for you, Harold and Dan, for the bank department. But Harold, you want to close with anything?
I think everybody else like to close. There's a guard on the door. We're not going to let you out for about another 15 minutes. No, but the one thing I would say, I have eaten chips at Brown's Chips. We bought Byrd here from Bartlett Home Furnishing, Richard, that I still have in my garage with my mom's and dad's. I want everybody in here to buy Bartlett except the banks. Don't go to the other banks. But, there are 7.8 billion people on our planet. In the United States, there are 327 billion. We make up 4%. And the one thing that really struck me is Bobby clarity, and I'd like to say one word if you don't want to, but you need to. What struck me was this is kind of like the Disney world. It's a small world. And we're all interdependent. This guy had a dream making Bartlett self-sufficient. So in tribute to you, I'd like to get up and say what you would say, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I don't have much to say. Looking back, we've been through a lot. More has changed in the last 6 months. We're faced with evidence of poor leaders. How long it will last? It will all be.
Thank you, and be safe, and thank you for all, on behalf of Mayor McDonald and everybody here, Brooks, great entrepreneur, thank you for what you've done, be safe. God bless.
Yeah, it's still there.
So can we go back?
And then it'll be on our YouTube page like that. Oh, you did great. Well, so it'll be on our page. It'll always be available on our Facebook page, but then it'll also be. If you don't want to, if you don't follow the Chamber of Institutions, okay? You're welcome.
I know you're saying,